What's going on? Jake with Chain Genius back for another episode of the Crypto Daily Update. Today's Thursday, March 22nd, and the market is moving mostly sideways. A little bit down from its peak around the 350 billion range. It's at about 337 right now. But for me, it's holding steady above 325, and that's nice to see considering on Sunday we had that dip down to 275 billion. Why is this happening? Nobody really knows, but I'm guessing it's due to some general positive sentiment. Talking about specific coins, Icon recently was announced to be listed on BitHum, the pro version, not the free site. There's also rumors that they're going to be put onto Upbit as well as Coin One, so that's really huge, especially because Korea tends to drive a lot of the market movements on these coins, and Icon itself is a Korean coin. The other thing is EOS saw a massive run today of upwards of about 70%. And this is most likely due to the same thing. They got listed onto, or the rumor is that they will be listed on Upbit, another Korean exchange, as well as announcing a $100 million joint venture with the German fintech incubator. This is already aligned with some of the other partnerships that have been coming out, like Bitfinex listing the EOS Finex decentralized exchange, which would have EOS trading pairs. So again, I've mentioned on this point before, I think EOS is starting to really build credibility in the space. Now all they have to do is actually make it to that mainnet launch. The other thing is, on this wave of positivity, is that Twitter's CEO says that Bitcoin will become the world's single currency within a decade. Don't know if I fully believe that, but since Jack Dorsey is the CEO of both Twitter as well as Square, which is now accepting payments in crypto, it makes sense that he's going to be bullish. Otherwise, why would he be putting money and time and effort into launching that on his other business? But he believes that the world will have a single currency, the internet will have a single currency, and for those that have read Digital Gold or any sort of sci-fi novels, it's the idea of credits, a single universal galactic currency that would operate the same no matter where you are. And on that particular note, I agree a little bit. Like, we only need a single universal store of value that we all agree on, has that value that we can use as an intermediary as we exchange goods and services. I personally don't think we will need more than one, but it's hard to say with a clear head that due to the philosophical debates that are happening, that Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin One will totally disappear, or Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, or even though Ethereum is technically not a currency, or Litecoin, or Rayblocks, aka Nano. It's just difficult to see everyone aligning behind a single tech. But I could be wrong, and maybe Jack Dorsey knows more than I do. But either way, I take that as net positive, because he's saying that it will be adopted over a long period of time. Continuing on that positive news, a Dutch court recently came out with a statement, which, since I don't read, I'm relying on my friends at Reddit to make that distinction. But one of the things that this person who is Dutch said is, either way, there's not really big news overall. The court ruled that Bitcoins are tangible things that can be sent, and you can see where they've come from, but they didn't actually say anything about it being money, a currency, or a financial asset. The big piece that I took away is that they said Bitcoin is transferable and represents a value, a store of value. So while that's not groundbreaking news, it does show that some entities in government are understanding how Bitcoin could be used and is being used, which to me is a net positive. Moving on, some FUD that came out today with the Nikkei report is that basically due to the recent hack that happened with NEM losing 500 million worth of those tokens, it's not surprising to see that Japan is probably going to crack down on exchanges and make sure security and audits and KYC, all those fun buzzwords, are up to snuff and above board. But what's interesting about this is that this claims Japan is to issue a warning against cryptocurrency exchange Binance. So of course everyone freaks out and claims FUD. However, the CEO of Binance did report that it shows irresponsible journalism. We are in constructive dialogues with the Japanese FSA, and we have not received any mandates. It does not make sense for the FSA to tell a newspaper before telling us while we're having an active dialogue with them, and I agree with that. It's highly unlikely that they would tell someone else before they told the exchange to which they're dealing with currently. So which way that would swing, I'm not really sure. I'm going to believe Binance because for the most part, they've proven themselves, in my opinion, to be pretty up and up on things. So, well, this one I'll have to wait and see. Some other news that happened today is the Ledger Nano S and Nano Blue, which is the more expensive $200 version of the hardware wallets, were allegedly hacked by a 15-year-old. However, before everyone goes and runs screaming to the hills, it sounds like Ledger during the most recent update, which I talked about a week ago, addressed some of these. However, it sounds like there is still some vulnerabilities just because of how Ledger uses a secondary device to interface with their secure element. So the secure element, this is beyond my pay grade in terms of tech, the secure element is limited in its functionality, so they had to use a secondary piece of custom architecture to interface with that secure element, and this kid found a way to take advantage of that. And it was more of there were a few different ones, but most of them all resolved around getting direct access to your ledger. So it's not like they could just hack your ledger remotely. It had to be either a supply chain attack, which is they intercepted it from factory to the consumer, somewhere along those lines, which is just another reason why I highly suggest you never buy a ledger or a hardware wallet third hand, second hand. Always buy it new in box. The other one is they get access to the ledger after it's already been set up, which would allow them to extract the PIN in the recovery seed. As before, this one doesn't require malware on the computer, but it does require them to install a custom firmware. So if you got phished and were led to believe and download this firmware and then reboot, as it rebooted, it would allow it to become an attack vector. So again, you have to be very careful, and it would require you to be making a mistake along the way. The last one is malware with a hint of social engineering. And this one is more if your computer got infected with said malware, and then it could force, through the USB port, it could force the screen on your ledger to show an error code asking you to reboot it. And once again, as it reboots, it creates an attack vector on your program. So the big part of this story is don't buy your ledger used, and don't download shady stuff onto your computer, and keep your ledger in your control at all times. Don't be an idiot. The other thing is, in terms of just absurd news as usual, Pablo Escobar's brother has launched his own cryptocurrency, Diet Bitcoin. Why is it Diet? Because it's less bloated, it's faster, it's sexier, it's cooler. The main thing I wanted to touch on this is talking about Dfinity the other day is if you buy now, there's a 96% discount for $2 a token, down from $50 for that Diet Bitcoin. And then they will do an additional 2 sales. The next one will be $100 a coin, and the final one is going to be $1,000 a coin. So my recommendation is, if you can convince some friends and family to buy those $1,000 coins and you buy now at $2, easy money, because all you have to do is dump on their heads. They may not like you afterwards for it. The thing that's funny about this is it doesn't talk about how or why it's better. It just dumps on all the other cryptos that are currently in the space and said, I'm better. Take that with a grain of salt. And it's being run by Escobar Inc., so small chance of other things being attached to it. The last thing is talking about how we've been in a wave of FUD and bad news and down press. Something that you need to keep in mind is media and news outlets as a whole, they're incentivized to talk about tragedy, evil, wrongdoings, bad news. You never hear about the little old grandma in Idaho winning the $650 million Powerball. Actually, you do, but very briefly. Generally, our news focuses on the worst possible outcomes of humanity at any given time. So knowing that, because bad news sells best, it's not surprising to see that we've been having such a hard time in the market because no one focuses on any of the positives. However, there are a lot of negatives, but when you only focus on the negative, it creates the image of only being used for drugs and pornography and child trafficking and all those terrible things. And this is just a snippet someone put together on Imgur. The top couple of news stories related to cryptocurrency on BBC: teenager hacks cryptocurrency wallet, child porn on the blockchain, Trump bans Venezuela cryptocurrency deals, Facebook and Google take action against crypto ads, digital cash aids money laundering. All of this is just, while it might be true, It's not the only news that's going on in the market, but unfortunately, they're incentivized by views to drive advertising revenue, and to get maximum views, they have to play into our fears and uncertainties and doubts, which is what they're doing. Something to think about, that when you read news, always keep it in the back of your mind that not everyone is trying to work in your best interest. They're most likely working in their own. So that's pretty much it for today's daily update. If you like what I've been saying, I'd love for you guys to hit the like button, the upvote, ring the little bell, subscribe, leave a comment, ask questions, tell your friends. And until next time, peace.